Hey everyone, Ronnie Landis here, and I am very excited to share a mutual message with someone that has been a personal and professional mentor of mine, someone that's been a really good friend, and someone that I really look up to in the health industry. And he's done some amazing work in the world as far as educating people on the power of natural nutrition and being a prolific athlete himself. So without further ado, I want to introduce Wade Lightheart.
Hey man, great to be here.
How you doing?
Doing awesome.
I guess that's somewhat of an obvious answer, huh?
Well, yeah, I think it's our natural state.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
because I think, the things that we're both into, health, wellness, wealth, wisdom, freedom in all aspects of life, that is our natural state, isn't it? And we live in a world that doesn't necessarily reflect that for a number of reasons, and we're both focused on health as a medium for expressing our best self, right?
exactly.
And so what I want to talk about today is the power of enzymes and enzyme therapy. That's something I talk about a lot, and I know that's a huge focus of yours. And what comes up for me when I think about what you do with your company, BioOptimizers, is, for me, anything that helps me become a better version of myself and express that into the world, I want that. So maybe we could touch on that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about healthy high performance, and both you and I share a common theme, is that we were high performance people, which were very fit but weren't very healthy.
Totally.
And doing all the macros, doing the the carbs, the proteins, the fat, doing the training, the high level stuff, all that sort of stuff. And I had a breakdown very much like you at the highest level, which prevented me from continuing on in my sport. And that's where I got, well, what's the missing ingredient? And what I didn't understand is that there's almost everything we were taught in nutrition or high performance was all macros.
Right, fat, protein, carbs,
minerals, vitamins,
right,
phytonutrients. This is what everybody's talking in most of the various niches of the health circles out there. But if you look at the only thing that does work is enzymes and probiotics. So you could put as many materials to it. If you're going to build a house, let's say this is my house, I'm going to build that house, and I bring all the materials out to the job site and leave them there for a couple weeks and drive away and come back. Well, am I going to have a house built?
No,
of course not, right? Why? There's no workers. And what I found is I was doing all of the components of, had all of my dietary stuff down, had all those things. I had lots of materials, but I ran out of workers. And that is what happens virtually to every single person at some point in their life. As a high-performance athlete, you just run out of workers sooner.
Right.
Very few professional athletes excel after they're age 30. Right? Because really, you've hit that critical mass. And according to Dr. Edward Howell in his wonderful book, Enzyme Nutrition, the average 40-year-old has less than 30% of the enzymes they had at birth.
Right.
Now, this was research done 40, 50 years ago. So imagine now with the proliferation of toxins and chemicals and the wide array of enzymatically deficient foods that we have. And so you and I both were, inside the raw food community because it was enzyme-rich foods. However, which is a wonderful thing, and I love that. But what I recognize, and I could see a lot of people that were attracted to that industry could come from compromised health. And through eating a cleaner, more natural, more organic, more raw diet, they were able to rebuild health. But what I didn't see was a lot of super high performance. And that was the thing. And I was like, well, what is, and then I was fortunate enough to be mentored under one of the original students of Dr. Howe. And he brought to my attention how enzymes were the missing link between the living and the dead. The inorganic compounds, or it was the workers that allowed me to take those materials and build it up. It was the workers that led me to take the toxins out of the system. So I began investigating and realized it's not about the toxins in the world. It's not about the materials.
Yes.
It's about how many workers you have to put those things in place to get the buildings up and get the chemicals out, and that is directly correlated with your enzymatic capacity.
Right.
And so from that, I went on extreme enzymatic protocols and started tweaking specifically the kind of enzymatic mechanisms that I felt was optimum, particularly for people who really want to live at that highest level, that are into the excellence level of enzymes. So
That's so well put. There's a lot of really cool metaphors you use. I like the idea of having all this building material, all this insulation material, but no workers to distribute it to the parts in the body it needs to be. What this brings up for me, and one of the things I think is really valuable for all of you out there listening, is that I'm thinking of my book, The Life Food Peak Performance System. I did a huge section on enzymology, so enzymes, the study of enzymes, Dr. Edward Howe and all his research, William Wong, and a lot of other people that were very focused on this. And one of the things that came up was, minerals being the frequency of light, essentially,
Yes.
right? So our body is like a lighthouse. Dr. Gabriel Cousens talks about this, and the more enzymes you have in the body, that actually activates those frequency mechanisms in the body, right?
absolutely.
And then the other thing that came up for me was that we typically think of enzymes as digestive aids.
Correct.
Right? So everyone's doing enzymes with their meals. If they have cooked food, you take some enzymes, break it down, whatever. And what came up in my research, and I really started to frame this perspective that digestion is the last thing that enzymes are designed to do.
Correct.
But because of the deficiencies of enzymes and just the overall abrasive lifestyle of the standard American diet, our enzymes aren't able to actually heal up scar tissue because the hierarchy of survival goes a different route. So if we have digestive distress, and those enzymes that would heal my knee, for example, when I had a knee injury, they're like, oh, look, the dude, he's eating food. Okay, shut this off. We need to go over here. We need to break that down. Because that's just the way the hierarchy works, right? But really, enzymes are designed holistically or systemically to heal the body of scar tissue and breakdown first and foremost, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about your product that you put out there.
Well, what happened is I started searching around in the various forums and educators inside the market, and of course, being a bodybuilding guy, was concerned on muscularity, and most of my students and clients were coming to me were in the high performance category, people that wanted to run further, lift more, that sort of thing, and they were putting extreme demands on their physicality, their musculature, and that required building and repair of protein-built tissues, muscles, and that sort of stuff. And what I noticed is when I like to look at the science and the data. Okay, there's this, and then what is the real world application? And then what I noticed is that very few strength athletes, take running backs, were able to maintain their productivity over the age of about 28 years old.
I'm looking right at the knee as you're doing that too.
And correlatively, if you look at through almost all the strength sports where strength is a factor, we see a diminishment of that around that time. And of course, going back to Howe, he said that proteolytic protease, which is the number one proteolytic enzyme, was diminished at that stage. We also notice that there's a typical loss of muscle mass as people age unless they're training.
The atrophy.
What are enzymes made out of? They're made out of protein, and I believe that you see this person that gets really sick with cancer or something, they lose a lot of muscle mass quickly. Again, the body's converting that muscle mass into enzymes. And one of the big effects of why people would use steroids is because of the anti-catabolic effect of steroids to retain muscle mass during extreme training. So I said, well, I don't want to go down that road. What if I started developing and using a very highly potent proteolytic enzyme? Now, the challenge with that was this. There wasn't a lot of high-level proteolytic enzymes on the market. Protease is the most expensive component to make. It's a long process to cultivate. You go to culturing, and I do recommend that you use a cultured enzyme. There's a big difference between a food enzyme from a food and a cultured enzyme, or a plant-based enzyme, or an animal enzyme. There's and so I was looking at, well, how do we make the best proteolytic enzyme? And what we did is we realized that protein inside the body needs to be broken down in the first 30 minutes. There's 5 amino acids that gets cleaved in the first 30 minutes before the hydrochloric acid comes in. Okay. Then hydrochloric acid comes in, and the pH of that mixture that's been chewed up and partially digested with the enzymes present starts to break down, and as the acid comes in, there's these various proteases that work in various pHs, and that's what cleaves those proteins into the specific amino acids and chops them up in a way that you can use them. So what we did is we went, well, we took these and we created a 3.0, a 4.5, and a 6.0 protease. And we had a couple other proteolytic enzymes inside there as well, along with the blend of the classic stuff like amylase and bromelain and alpha-galactolase and all that stuff.
Just real quick, most supplements that I see are amylase dominant,
Yes.
which in my mind is like, it's probably pretty important, but in that hierarchy, most people are suffering from a protein excess.
That's right.
And so they need the proteolytic enzymes primarily, or even the fat enzymes. But the amylase, from what I'm gathering from this, is probably the most inexpensive.
Exactly.
And that's why it's the most dominant in these supplements.
Right, and we've all seen the oatmeal test or the pudding test, and it's very impressive. You throw some enzymes in there, and they have the bowl of oatmeal digests, or the bowl of pudding, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
And it's very impressive, and don't get me wrong, I think that's a great thing. However, if we're going back to undigested protein being the number one toxin in the body, the maintenance or building up of protein, the biggest factor in strength development, and of course there's a lot of correlation between muscle mass and longevity over a long time.
Right.
So for health and longevity, we're looking at maintaining muscle mass inside the body, which gets bone structure. I mean, there's a whole correlation to that. So we went back and we decoded this and said, okay, how much can we actually... And we went out there and literally focused on a proteolytic enzyme out there. And we put this together, and wow, I mean, you can really feel it, especially people that may have challenges with their moods or depression or things like they don't have enough proteolytic enzymes to extract the protein and turn it into polypeptide chains, or they have undigested protein that's been eaten by bacteria that's creating neurotoxins that's affecting the moods. So we put this together, we started using it, it caught on in the bodybuilding community. That's so the bodybuilders now today, almost all of the top companies have some form of enzyme. We started this about almost 10 years ago, our partners and I. And then from there, it started to seep into the medical community. Because of course, you look at a lot of the alternative cancer protocols that are out there that recommend proteolytic enzymes. I'm not saying that this cures cancer or anything like that, but what I would say is there's a lot of people in that holistic thing that are using proteolytic enzyme for support under those conditions. So extreme illness and extreme athleticism are putting major demands on the body, and that's why we developed this. And as you can see, we label everything, we put it out there, we show people exactly what it is, what they're getting, and most people that try it are quite profoundly amazed with the results that they have over time. And we have a special protocol that we put together.
To actually guide people. Because most people, one of the things I find with my clients that I have to create a strategy for them, because most of them have been told, I ask them, are you doing probiotics, are you doing enzymes, whatever, and they're like, oh, I've been doing that for years. And then I have to ask, how much are you doing? They're like, oh, I do 1 or 2 enzymes a day. I'm like, okay, now we need to kind of create a distinction here on that.
I have a concept I call the bucket theory.
Okay.
And that is your burn rate in life is imagine your whole supply as a bucket, and your burn rate is a little hole in the bucket.
Right.
So if you're just putting enough nutrients and vitamins and enzymes or whatever it happens to be in the bucket to maintain what's going out, you never have a full bucket.
Right. Kind of like a leaky gut almost.
Yeah. So what we have discovered in this process is taking high dosages of enzymes and a number of other products. I mean, you can do one at a time, or you can do our whole biological optimization protocol.
Okay.
But we get you to fill up the bucket first. Get the bucket full. It takes about 90 days to really have a well-rounded enzymatic pool where you start making a difference in your body. And then we suggest that at that stage you just alter the amount that you take based on how you feel, or the meals that you eat, or your dietary choices. And the results are far better than people that's just taking 1 or 2 enzymes. And so I reckon, not that that's bad, but we're looking at not just managing what you're currently doing. We're looking at how do we take people to the highest level of physical expression. What is your super self? What is your highest expression? That is what orthomolecular is about. Not taking just the minimum, is about taking the optimum. And that's why we call our company Bioptimizers, is because we're into biological optimization through targeted, specific, nutrient-dense products or workers and enhancers to allow your body to express the magic that's within it.
Fantastic. Really, really awesome explanation. That's great. So where can people find more information on you and get more information on the product that we're talking about?
Well, they can just go to our site, biooptimizers.com, or actually the best way, we just click on the link here, and that'll take you in, and that'll get you a free biological optimization book as well that can explain the protocols, how they work, and you get all that, just kind of as a thank you for sharing the message with us.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, guys, well, you heard it here first. Wade Lightheart and the power of enzyme therapy. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right, see ya.